favor? Carried. Just administrative note that permission to film the meeting has been requested and permitted, and any individuals not wishing to be filmed should take this opportunity to move from the second camera, which is located over at the corner there. Got one set of minutes to adopt from the December 15th meeting, so I'm going to assess for motion to adopt those minutes, please. Councillor Lumley, Councillor White, all in favor? Here. Got one delegation this evening, Celia from Sunshine Coast Tourism. Thank you for joining us and bringing us up to date on this last year's activities.
So thank you very much. And I want to first express my thanks for the genuine support that you have continued. Both the Sunshine Coast Tourism as an organization, but also the tourism industry in general as a. And I just want you to know that we truly appreciate that support, both what you do financially and what you do in being there professionally. We really appreciate that. 2015 was a good year for tourism. We don't have a lot of hard statistics, but if you look at BC Ferry statistics, traffic is up through November. It's up over 3%, and that's on all the routes and not just on the Langdale Horseshoe Bay route. And most significantly, when you see the largest increases, it's in the months of May, September, and October, which we are constantly targeting the shoulder season, so it's really good to see growth in those months and not just the July and August timeframe. July was up as well, but August wasn't. So those two kind of offset, but to see spring and fall doing well was quite good. And in fact, it's almost back to 2010 numbers. So it'll be really interesting to see once they publish December how strong the entire year was. But that's all a good sign. And for as much as you may have been hearing today in the media about how terrible the Canadian dollar is, that's actually quite good for tourism, and on two fronts, in that Americans have been coming to Canada in stronger numbers over the past year, and it's also very good from the sense of Canadians tend to stay in Canada rather than taking easy cross-border. So it is a positive thing for the tourism industry. When I spoke to you last year, one of the things we were fairly nervous about was that the Vancouver Coast and Mountains Regional Office had been closed, and we weren't really sure how that was going to work. We were going to lose some direct support in terms of manpower and services that office provided for us. But I'm very happy to say that we're really pleased with the work that Destination BC has done as that has evolved and the steps that they've taken to move the entire province forward. And so we're seeing very good things coming out of Destination BC when it comes to very strong strategic planning, a very strong marketing campaigns that they're putting out. And one of the exciting things that we're going to see from them in 2016 is that their job is to bring visitors to British Columbia. And they haven't done much advertising in the province. And that's one of their key directives for 2016. And part of that has to do with the Loonie, and part of that has to do with just recognizing that BC residents travel in BC. And that's a core piece to a lot of local communities. So you'll see more and more province-wide advertising popping up within BC market. That should be good for us, since we estimate about half of all visitors come from within BC to the Sunshine Coast. That's probably half of our visitor market. And the other thing that Destination BC is doing is investing more money directly into communities. Before, it was that funding tended to stay up at the regional level, and now that they've eliminated the Vancouver Coast and Mountains region, you see them partnering directly with communities. So as long as a community can come with dollars to the table, Destination BC will match them. And it's there as long as you put out a plan and specific Norwegians market and do full evaluation, they're their department. So that's been quite exciting. So we saw additional funding from them in 2015, and our applications have just gone in this year for 20. It allows us to expand past. I won't spend too much time talking about what we did in 2015 because you've got that in front of you, and I'm happy to field questions from that. But I wanted to talk a little bit about kind of the big things we're working on for 2016. We will continue to attend a number of trade shows because that allows us to speak one-on-one directly with people interested in travel, because those are the people that come to those types of shows. We'll be at the Vancouver Boat Show next week for 5 days, and then we'll be at the Outdoor Adventure and Travel shows in both Calgary and Vancouver in March. And those three are all selected as very key demographics and passions that cause people to travel. And then we'll also be back in Seattle in the fall, or not Seattle, Portland in the fall at their travel show. And we were really overwhelmed with the response we got being in Portland, Oregon this last October. It was a completely different audience than what you get in traveling to BC. So many times you're talking about the ferries here with local travelers and the impression that they've picked up from the constant media attention to BC Ferries problems. Whereas in Oregon, they were like, really, you get to travel by ferry and it's only 40 minutes? That sounds awesome. That would be a great part of the trip. And so it really was a different perspective. They're very used to traveling to Victoria. So in then talking to them about either making the circle tour or coming up the other side and just coming. It was a good conversation. The other things that we're partnering with are working with a new product called the Sea to Sky Mountain Bike Tour. And that's a partnership with Whistler, Squamish, Pemberton, and North Shore on really showcasing the world-class mountain bike destination that this entire region has, and helping people plan itineraries of, a day at Coast Gravity Park, a day at Whistler Mountain Bike Park, and some cross-country riding in between to really showcase the region as top-notch, world-class cycling. And also another partnership is the BC Ale Trail. We're working with the Brewers Guild as well as a number of regional locations to really kind of chart out an ale trail of not only visiting the brewery, so you see Persephone as an obvious fit for something like that, but also highlighting restaurants and pubs that feature beer on the way to highlight that full experience. And that's also a very it's a cultural experience, and it's a very authentic experience of understanding that local brewery authenticity of, and Persephone is a perfect example of that. We go to the farms. We're really looking forward to being able to partner with other regions to do that. Then we're hoping to expand. Our normal advertising piece is usually within BC and within the lower market, and to really make a stronger play in Calgary and Edmonton, and then also in Portland and Seattle. So 2016 is another good year.
Thank you, Sina. And thanks for all the work that your organization does. I think your organization actually is a real model for the Sunshine Coast in terms of how they might do things. And I really enjoyed your guest speaker at your AGM, Mr. Henry, I think it was.
Yes.
A gentleman from Aboriginal Tourism Canada.
Yes.
It was really quite inspiring.
Thank you. That's an underlying element too I didn't address, but bringing those Aboriginal stories and authenticity in general into the Sunshine Coast.
Yeah, there was actually I think about a 2-page spread recently in, I don't know, it was the National Post or one of the papers about Aboriginal tourism, and that, in fact, that many of the, particularly European visitors, are actually looking for genuine Aboriginal tourism experiences. Sort of coincided with what we heard in that meeting. Okay, any other questions or comments from Councillor Norman?
Thank you. Yeah, the summer, having a seasonal business myself, obviously El Nino was a key factor this year, and it's supposed to be again this year. So having a patio open in March, huge bonus for everybody. I just wondered, you mentioned how you partnered up with Sea to Sky, and I know I've talked to the councillors and Mayor Rowe. The first event I went to as a councillor, which was on the island, and we were kind of lumped in with the island as far as the municipal politics, I guess. And there was a bit of a disconnect from the Sunshine Coast, at least I felt it. I just wondered if you guys are exploring, or because even, nothing against Powell River, but I would almost think that like Squamish and the Sunshine Coast, like, I guess at least Gibsons and Seashell part of it, I could see that connection there as far as partnering up on different items. I don't know if you guys have explored that, or if that's the way you think, or anyway, I'm just interested.
So we actually tend to partner both directions. I fully recognize how Seashell and Gibson's partner stronger Squamish direction, that's the big picture. But with really as Sunshine Coast Tourism, you have to remember that we're representing Powell River and Land equally as well. And so there's a definite stronger tie for them when you talk about Comox. Plus you have a natural, from the longer traveler coming from Europe and other countries tending to do the circle tour and very much going to the island and probably going to Tofino as their number one stop, either Victoria or Tofino. And so partnering with the island becomes important in having people come home the other direction, heading for Tofino but coming back all the way down the coast. So in fact, we have a travel writer coming next week, or actually this weekend. He arrives Friday. Who's starting on the island, doing the Nanaimo, Comox Valley from a brewery side of things, and then stopping at Townsite and Powell River and stopping here. Seeing that as a circle route. So we're excited this year because it'll be the first year to really go with Squamish and Whistler and Pemberton on the Sea to Sky on a specific product, because we all have top-notch mountain biking. And I hope that opens the door to more partnering that direction. And it's really nice to be able to leverage Whistler's in-house capabilities when it comes to crafting and designing a plan, since they're a fully functioning staffed office, which is more than. And we're excited about that, but we do want to continue partnering in both directions.
I just wanted to thank you for another year of leadership. Quite a few now, and to the board. The question I was going to ask you had to do with low hanging fruit for the organization, but I think I got that answer. You answered really clearly, but I guess I would ask, with some of your members, the people that you serve in the organization, do you get any feedback from them as to any changes? Stafford just mentioned some, weather-related things. So I was just curious, like, as compared to maybe a few years ago, if you heard anything different, or new approaches, or anything that you might.
I would agree that the weather was definitely a factor this year, both in spring, getting started early, and fall. And probably the only dip in that, people really noticed when the forest fire was happening in Seashell. There were cancellations that week, and it was just a lull week right at the beginning of July when you expect things to be kicking up, and all of a sudden the activity providers, when you think about the kayakers, they had gone from full packed, adding staff to nothing, because no one wanted to paddle on Seashell Inlet, and then finally cranking back up in the summer. But there was real worry that could extend all summer. We definitely had feedback across the board that there were more Americans on the coast, And yet, even with the worries in Alberta on their economy, the Albertans were still coming. We're still that great draw to the ocean for them. With probably the dollar keeping them in Canada. Other things across the board from them. Definitely heard from individual businesses having a fair season. You know, it's different business to business and the types of things that they do. Definitely have some activity providers that are excited that we actually have snow up on Dakota this winter. They've had 2 really bad years of almost no season. Off to a really good start. Snow base is up over 180 centimeters, and anyone who hasn't been up yet should really.
Okay, anything else? No? Okay, thank you, Celia, much appreciated.
Thank you very much.
Okay, any inquiries at this point? Any further opportunities? Yes,
The tourism folks were asking for money. I see in an attachment, Phil, on the agenda. Did you give them that money?
it will come for budget discussion. We have, staff has already made a note for that. We consider that budget, but we have contributed pretty continuously in the past, but no decision has been actually made on that at this point. Okay, 8.1.1, just a motion to receive the minutes of the committee of the whole there, December 15th. Larry, Councillor White, all in favor then? That's carried. 9.1 was dealing with the 2016 liaison appointments. First of all, Councillor recommended Councillor Valerian be appointed to serve as deputy mayor until December 31 of this year. There's one change in what's there in front of you, or I guess it's probably 2 changes, is I'm going to recommend that Councillor Lumley be liaison with the Gibsons Landing Harbor Authority, and Councillor Sedjenko will serve as liaison with the Gibsons and District Chamber of Commerce. So both of those organizations are ones in which they have some specific interest in right now. So that change, Councillor White moved, Councillor Valeri second. All in favor then? That's carried. Thank you. 9.2. It's pretty straightforward, the report, unless anybody has any questions or comments on that. I'll just give you a second. You're going to move the recommendation, Councillor White? And seconder, Councillor Valerian? Any other discussion on that? Okay, all in favor? Okay, that's carried as well. 9.3, I think probably needs a little bit of staff explanation, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a report about a building on 1015 Venture Way, and it's about a notice of title. Bit of the background of the building is originally built in 1991. In 2007, there were 6 illegal streets that were removed at that time because of concerns about safety, and since then the building was changed into storage and 2 residential units. But there were some outstanding issues since 2008 that still needed to be addressed. In 2013, in the meantime, it seems that the town didn't follow up actively on this file, but in 2013 we saw changes in the building, or we noticed that several studios, as they were called, were being offered, plus we got a complaint, so we needed to follow up on this. And we noticed that there were still these outstanding issues, and possibly more residential units now. So throughout 2013, 2014, we tried to get voluntary compliance, reminding the owners of the outstanding issues and the need to address the fire safety of the building. Also to confirm with us how many residential units are actually in this building, because it's very important. Storage is one thing in the building, but if you have people living there, that's a whole different level of responsibility that you need to take as a property owner, in terms of fire separation between the units. For example, one of the outstanding issues is that the sprinkler system is not kept up with some of the internal changes in the building. Separation between suites are not continuous. So there's some issues. We didn't get far with voluntary compliance, so we did more efforts this year to actually go into the building. We saw some of the building now, not all of it just yet. There's definitely serious issues. Also areas of the building we still haven't seen. Still no action on the part of the owner to take action on this. And we feel as staff that this is so serious that we need to pursue further action. And one of those actions is notice and title. It's a bit of a paper measure, but it will inform the mortgage provider and also any future owners. And hopefully it will increase the pressure on the owner to step up the plate and do something about the situation. So, oh yeah, there's a related issue to this. The number residential suites are an option in our industrial zone. And that's a different topic that I wanted to flag for you. I'm not particularly happy with it from a planning perspective. Especially after hearing from the building inspector, he explained to me that storage and industrial uses have a certain standard on the BC building code. But if you want to combine it with residential use, that's a whole different level, of course, of safety that you need. And the way he puts it, to do that properly, you need to create, even within a building, you need to separate those uses out very particularly and definitively. So it's very challenging to have a zoning option that allows for studios for artisans, as it is called in our industrial one zoning, and kind of assuming that, well, that's a nice blend with manufacturing, storage, and you name it. It's something that was added in about 10 years ago. If we feel that it's maybe time to review that, and there is one other building in town that has the same formula. It's actually surrounded by residential commercial areas. So it would be a good time to look at a different type of zone specifically for those kind of buildings where they're combined with commercial uses, which is more compatible. But maybe eliminating that option in the industrial zone because it's a very hard mix to achieve. So yeah, the recommendations in front of you are to receive the report, to authorize the corporate officer to file the notice of on title, and to give staff direction to review that artisan live work option in the industrial zone. And before we get to it, I could please see if one of the owners, if he or she is present, and she could speak to it. Yeah.
We'll just get you a microphone here.
My husband is not here right now, he's tied at work. And I asked the town to postpone this meeting, and I heard what's enough, and I don't agree with all what he's saying. But because it's a storage, we don't have a key for all those people that it's in that storage. We have to ask those people to come and open their storage to show them. And few of those stories are being shown to them. So I cannot discuss any longer. I asked the town to make it another time to discuss this because as my husband is a realtor, he is not always be available. He was trying to be here, but he can't because he's tied up in Sisha.
So, are you saying that there's no residential occupants in that?
I had one upstairs, and they see it. Which is the one that it's been there since we bought the property. We only own the property for like over a year, and he's been renting it for storage all along, and what do you call it? Artist studio. And that's all we have in there. So more residential that he's talking about it, I don't know where he find it. Sorry. And it's been a problem for quite some time that I've been hearing because I don't know, they're just giving us a hard time. Every time we go in there, there's some bylaw and bylaw and bylaw. We're not doing any wrong until we bought it. We never extend anything. What's the business? What is in there for? So I would like to postpone this meeting until me and my husband will be here.
getting facts straight and stuff like that, I can understand, but, from reading this report, if there's a safety, like if there's no fire separation, like my concern was that if there's people living in a building that isn't constructed for residential living, could be all kinds of
Well,
issues.
right now, the upstairs is vacant, it's been 3 months vacant because the guy is in jail, I believe, that's what they says. So, we can even get there.
Okay, and there's no one else living in the
No,
entire
no.
building?
Well, no,
There's no one
no,
living, it was the concern that people were living in,
there's no living in there, there's
storage
people there.
lockers or something
No,
like that?
no,
Okay.
no, and I guarantee you that right now that there's nobody else there. There's some people there, I had one tenant in there that he's a painter. He said when he get up in the middle of the night and he feel to go and paint, and he goes in there and paint in the night. That's all. And painter that's the way how they do. When they feel wanna go and paint, even at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, they go and paint. That's how they do it. I had a number of painter from Sunshine Coast that they like to go and paint when they go and paint in one room.
Um, a lot of what's referenced in the report goes back a number of years. If I understand what you just said, you only own the property for about a year?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I have to correct Ms. Schurschmidt here. We've talked about this building in 2013. By that time, the building was already owned by this couple, and so that's 4 years now.
No, it's not 4 years. It was under bankruptcy, and we were trying to get that under what name previous owner.
And is there some additional information that you believe your husband has to share with us?
Yes.
Well, subject to council here, it seems to me that we should certainly at least make sure that the property owners will get a full opportunity to address us. It's been going on for quite a period of time, so I don't know if a couple of weeks is going to be that critical, but Roger, you want to add something?
Yes, didn't mention it, but we did notify the owners of this meeting and this opportunity. And from my perspective, since the fall of 2013, we've been waiting to hear and to see any action regarding these items. The two suites, the residential suites that we've inspected, have outstanding fire separation issues. They're not safe to live in. So, as part of staff concerns, we have waited long enough. Thank you.
I'm quite familiar with every month, so I'm quite comfortable with accepting staff's recommendation here, and that is not a permanent thing. There are it's simply another mechanism to that a number of things are being followed here. I'm comfortable with the recommendation personally, and I'm confident that if the owners have a point about nobody are addressing these issues, then notice on title permanent act. It's just another way of making sure that we're following the law here. I'm okay with it.
The notice pertains to the unauthorized use, is that?
It's a notice for contravention of the building bylaw, the local building bylaw, so works done without works and issues with fire safety.
Okay, Councilor Mulner?
My question's for Director of Planning. In your report, enforcement strategy, you did note the withdrawal of the conditional occupancy permit, but it doesn't seem to be in the recommendation. Should, be added, like, as far as all the notice on title and withdrawing that, is that, should that be included in the recommendation, or?
That's something that the building inspector manages, so we already do this based on his own jurisdiction, so to say. So it's not something we need council's input on.
Can I comment to that stuff? We asked them what will we do, and they said we don't do that.
Sorry, don't do what, sorry?
We asked the violent inspection that came over there, because I was there, what would you like us to do? And they said, no, we're not gonna suggest you anything. I said, why can you not? If you want us to change the building, at least you can tell us something what to do. Don't just say, hey, you're doing wrong.
Okay. First of all, I think Councillor White's point is quite correct, that the course of action that's being recommended by staff at this point is not overly onerous, in that it would simply be a registration on title that in the event you attempted to sell this property right now with other prospective purchaser, there are problems. There's still obviously things that are going to need to be worked out and can be done to have that notation removed from the title. It sounds like there's been difficulty, I guess, getting the appropriate responses from you, and I think there needs to be probably a more active engagement if we proceed with this in any event, to see whether or not some of these problems are prepared to deal with these problems. So, Councillor Lumley pointed out, once the town is aware of these issues, we do have a responsibility, safety responsibility to other persons, and so it's not something we can ignore lightly. So if we proceed with this, this is not this is something that can still be remedied, provided that you take the steps to make sure that the property improvements are brought in compliance with the building requirements. And I would encourage you to meet with our staff very soon to look at actually addressing these issues. So you are going to move that?
Move the recommendation.
Next second. Councillor Lumley, all in favor? That's carried. So it'll be just a notation at this point, but there are more aggressive steps that can be taken, and hopefully you'll make a point to meet with our staff and take some steps to address these issues, okay? We really appreciate you coming and speaking to us. So.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any inquiries at this point? There'll be another opportunity. Two items of correspondence. Just a motion to receive those, please. Councillor Zari, Councillor Sanjanko, in favor. Is there any discussion, anything around those for information at this point? I think, Manny, you mentioned some that we'd be hearing from somebody about 11.2 there in a future meeting.
Yes, certainly, through you, Mr. Mayor. We have made contact in light of this correspondence with the local officials, with the Office of the Early Years, and we're finalizing the scheduling of an upcoming council meeting so that those folks can give council an update on the implementation of this change to childcare, and at the same time provide the council with an update on the status of childcare in the Sunshine Coast.
It was nice to see this a meeting after.
Thank you.
That'd be helpful, great.
You know, if the childcare at the new elementary school is fully booked now. Okay, 15.1, Councillor Valeria, you have a motion that you want to bring forward there. So, pardon me? Oh, 12.1. 12.1, Park Acquisition Fund Transfer Bylaw. So, Ian, we got the permission from, or consent from the ministry, is that correct?
That is correct, Your Worship. Minister Fassbender approved the release of the transfer of funds from our park acquisition reserve fund back on December 17th, I believe it was. So that allows council to take the next step, which is to pass this particular bylaw. This was brought initially to council back on November the 3rd, and council's motion of the day was to proceed with the release of funds upon the approval by the ministry, and also on acceptance of the finer details with the Gibsons Public Market regarding the equity position that those funds would take. So, and I believe those discussions are still ongoing.
Thank you. Okay. This is the motion then for the Park Acquisition Fund Transfer Bylaw be adopted. Councillor Nolan, second Councillor White, any further discussion? All in favor? That's carried. Okay, 15.1, Councillor Valeria, do you have a motion there? I guess we should see if we got a second here. So that's moved by Councillor Valeria, seconded by Councillor Sanjanko. So we'll speak to that, please.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'll just speak to it. There's two here that are somewhat related, but one at a time. First thing is, I guess, doesn't bring me any joy to. I feel like I'm dredging up the past a little bit. This should have been done in October, soon after our George zoning decision, but life doesn't always work out that way. So, but these two are really what I used to kind of square my decision within myself to vote how I did on Georgia rezoning. So I committed to bringing them up for discussion, and I'm bringing them up to hear what other councillors have to say about it. I think we each rejected the notion that this rezoning was a precedent that would certainly be extended to other properties, but I'm trying to explore whether there's a way to put that, formalize that a little bit, and get a message out there of what we think we do the next 3 years. We can't. I recognize that the local government act says we have to consider every application, and that we can't speak for future councils. But for the next 3 years, I'm wondering at least what our options are to say it was a really attractive development. We like the benefits it brought, but it doesn't. We don't anticipate that this is looking at any other 7-story buildings over the next 3 years. Let's see how this one goes. And there's a lot of time investment that goes into some of these things. So we can head off some of the possibilities that could eat up a whole bunch of staff time, council time, and resident time when really we're not likely to go there. So it's really asking for staff report on what are our legal constraints. Do we have any options? Could we do something with that pesky OCD clause on exceptions? Do we want to leave the door that wide open? Personally, I feel like if you say you have height guidance and then you have a bunch of exceptions, except for this one, except for this one, except for this one, it starts to lose some of its meaning. So maybe we don't need to leave that door open, or maybe there's another option. But that's kind of what I'm wondering what other councillors think about it. Tackle this, or we keep evaluating each on its merit.
And just upon speaking with Jeremy earlier today, my thought is that motion is to ask staff to find out if we have options or options might be. So I do support this motion. I think doesn't hurt to find out what options are. I guess my other comment was, discussion that could be had as well is we can as a council also philosophical statement of development that we are very much encouraging not necessarily saying the ones that we're not. So my point earlier was you can focus on what you are looking for and not. So I would welcome that discussion.
Probably a good way to put it. Well, that should be clear, just so that there is no misunderstanding. There are no other applications before council or even our staff, as far as I know. Okay, okay, what's going on?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, for C-Glass, there is an OCP amendment in the works as well that deals with number of stories, not 7, but 6. So there is one other in the pipeline.
Right. Other than sea glass, there's nothing else. Right.
I guess for me, I'm still listening to what other councillors have to say. I feel strongly that the OCP is our guide. It is our expression of what we count. I'm concerned about almost kind of watering down. You really can't, because it was authority as well, but just kind of indicating that we're not considering doing it or not. I'm more comfortable with just sticking to the fact that there can be exceptions to the rule. We put out there as a town.
Yeah, I think I completely understand where Councillor Valeri is coming from. I recall that when as soon as we got elected, we got thrust into like an OCP amendment vote and with George, and I remember Councillor White voted no on the OCP amendment for that very reason. I think if I wasn't as green as I was, I guess 1 year older, I hope I'm a bit wiser, but I might have voted no too, only because it seemed really strange afterwards that and I get it, there was like a lot of money spent, a lot of time, a lot of people put a lot of efforts in, but it was like there's like a 7-story hotel sitting here, and we're like voting on the OCP saying, hey, nothing over 2 or 3 to 4 stories. It just seems ridiculous. So, but then there's so if we take a look at it now, I kind of think, and I spoke to Councillor Valeri, it's like we have this strange topography here where, you know, we want to do something at Shoal Bay, and seemingly there's it looks pretty flat to me, Shoal Bay. It's really hard to like say, well, you can't, you know, what if somebody had like the greatest idea in the world and they wanted to come here and build it at Shoal Bay and it was 3 stories, like I'm just not sure that, and you know, Sea Glass is 6 stories because of the slope of the hill, so it's difficult putting in all those restrictions where they're basically, they're just over 2 stories, or the height, are they within the height? Sea Glass, I think on the street side, like on the high side, like, and then on the low side they're over it because it's 6 stories. So it's tricky when you like say, hey, this is all you can do, and then somebody comes in with a development project and you're going, wow, this is great, except, you know, it's like one story too high. So I certainly wouldn't want us to say, let's do this, and then something comes along and you go, oh, shit, let's change that again. You know what I mean? So anyway, that would be my concern, is that I don't want to seem as like we're flip-flopping from, you know, and I understand the concern. There's a lot of concern. It's just going to be this wall of skyscrapers along the bay, but I mean, I don't think that's a concern at all. So, what I take, and if I'm incorrect on this, what I take from the intent of your motion is just ask staff if there's what we can reasonably do to provide some sort of statement as to, you know, how we may approach some development. We may not have much flexibility. We're all well aware that there is some legislative issues around that, but I think at this point, your motion's primarily saying, staff, can you come back and tell us, is there anything more that we can do or not do? Would that be the intent of it? That's the intent of it. I mean, I can support that. Something I assume staff is able to provide for us at some point.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, certainly, the Director of Planning and I obviously discussed this motion, and, we can prepare a report to that end. The timeline, that could be a specific timeline at this point.
Councillor Larry hasn't asked for a specific timeline, just wants to get a report back on that. So, yeah, I think if that's where it's at, I mean, I can I'll call the question. I'll have Dave. That's carried. Councillor White proposed. Okay, 15.2, this is another motion brought forward by Councillor Valerian. I guess we'll see if we got a second for that. So Councillor White will second that one, so go ahead and speak to that, please.
Thanks. This one is pretty straightforward. Some would call it a post-mortem. It's mostly forward-looking. This was a big project for this town, and organization that we got it perfect. There's a lot of gray area between the legal minimum and the absolutely perfect process. I think looking for it. I've been told informally that it would make sense for any RCA comment, but it would be natural for our staff to do a bit of review of how this went and what could be done, what went well, what didn't go well, and what could be done in the future. And maybe there's a certain aspect of council doesn't need to micromanage here, but it would, I think, from an oversight point of view, it'd be good for us to hear about what the highlights of that discussion. So it's whether it's policy or just areas where we might consider having a bit more guidance for what staff does, what council does, or what 3-year process, what staff are looking back at with the advantage of hindsight.
When I was in the service, we used to call these after-action reports. We got shot and I didn't. I don't have a problem with the concept. I'm concerned about the time frame that you set out in there. We just get into heavy budget time as well, so depending on how other members of council feel about this motion, I want to consider longer time frame, I think. Somebody else have a comment? Councillor One?
I'm not attached to the time frame. I don't think, but I do. My main point on this is that around local government for a while. And whole group here exceptional experience. There is that very complex proposals come.
My objective with the time frame, and it's a little bit moot now, but it's just that it be done while it's fresh in everybody's minds. So maybe it's just a question for our CAO, what kind of time frame makes sense. Maybe you've already had some of these discussions. It's just a matter of managing. I recognize there's a lot of work coming up, so get it all in writing.
Finance Mayor, through you, this, considering this application was, by far, the largest process, ever considered, quite possibly on the coast. It required, a fair amount of, upsizing every process, venue that we had, to deal with it. It had I'm not presenting the report, by the way. It's fair to say we've had to accommodate that, and that's led to substantial changes in how patients are dealt with. Having said that, I just want to point out that the process is still ongoing, because we're still, so there's some limitations to the total scope, and it will be time consuming if we get directed to do that. We have to be mindful that it's not a beginning to end necessarily, because we considered sort of the initial part of the effort.
Okay, so, council is here to move forward with this. Last 5 minutes.
Before the summer break. And by the time we get to May, between now and May, we're not after budget and considering the discussions we had earlier today, having extra meetings as well. I think realistically, end of June or sort of mid-July.
On this, I guess,
I'll make the amendment to in July. Sounds that's cool.
okay, so that's moved and seconded, the change being the report fee. Okay with that? Great, thank you. You kind of amended, so. Okay, if you want to do it that
Vote on
way.
the amended motion. Just to make sure.
All right, okay, so we just did, okay, the amended motion was to change the money. The main motion then,
We're doing it 3 times.
what's already moved, right? Yeah.
I think we only needed 2 votes, so.
That's all we're doing. Anyway, we got it, Selena?
You voted on the amendment and then you voted on the motion. Let the record show.
There. Okay, 15.3, Councillor White, this is your motion. That's good. So over.
This is pretty simple, just sending a letter to the Gibsons Landing Harbor Authority expressing that we're strongly interested in having a commuter passenger ferry operating out of Gibsons Harbor. The inspiration for this is I keep news stories first talking about a passenger ferry to Vancouver Island, and I'm always talking about passenger ferry. Where it is and really the place and to be publicly clear and saying that we're willing to work with others. For this motion, and I think
Okay, so it's primarily, well, I guess it's two things, I guess. One is indicating his support for the concept, but the second one is you're sort of asking the harbor authority to sort of let us know what they see would be, maybe not just infrastructure requirements, but what would be needed to make it work. I mean, obviously it needs it needs a private person to be prepared to actually do one, but I guess we're just trying to sort of see what can be done from.
that's
So if that's passed, Councillor Valeria, I guess that'll be one of your first tasks as liaisons. Oh, sorry, as liaison, yeah. On it. You're on it, okay. All right, any other discussion on that one? Okay, all in favor then? Okay, that's carried, thank you. Any parties at this point? Just one here.
Yes, this may be redundant, but has council received information in the last day regarding the property for sale above Bayview Heights Road on the wording of the realtors advertisement? Bayview Heights Road, earlier in this year, last year or the year before, council determined that road access to that undeveloped property would not be through Bayview Heights Road. And in the last 2 days, the realtor is advertising the property for sale for $4 million with access through Bayview Heights Road. Now, it may be just a mistake in the wording, but it seems if somebody pays $4 million and expects road access through Bayview Heights Road, then you are going to be presented with quite a lot of pressure.
Okay.
So it's been advertised in the last 48 hours. I just wanted to know whether someone had already informed you of this or not.
Just before it goes, staff, I've forgotten your name.
Yeah, oh, sorry, the Daily Kipling.
Right. No, I'm not aware of that.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the staff certainly were made aware yesterday of this matter, and we're just reviewing the advertisement right now, and not entirely certain that we have any jurisdiction over the wording of an ad. At the same time, there's some assumptions in the ad that might not be reflective of what's possible. And so we're having a discussion internally and making a decision about contacting the owner of the ad.
Council reports. Councillor, actually I got a list here because it didn't make the cut. But you know what, Councillor White, go ahead, because yours is on there, and I'll just go through everybody else. You want to add anything to your report?
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, there was another inquiry.
Sorry, I didn't see it. Okay.
Please.
Sorry, I can speak loud enough. Okay, sorry, again, Mayor and Council, my name is Judith Lenro from Gibsons. Couple of, inquiries here. Number one, I'm happy to see the dialogue about the process of the torch. And, albeit, a little confusing and, as far as future development goes, I'm a little bit confused. But I'm happy to see that there's going to be a report on the process and what happened, and that possibly, I'm pretty sure that everybody received this report from, I saw it on Gibsons Alliance website, and this is about the George Public Hearing Process blog. And so I hope that goes in the report, that you're putting together the aftermath, because there's some important facts in here. I, for one, really am disappointed to hear that you guys didn't get Sarama's report, because it was 18 pages and might have changed some of your minds. That being said, I would just hope that next time the process is a little less confusing. There were some, misconceptions. People didn't really know when they were supposed to, when the cutoff times were for certain different things. And I know, it's too little too late, but I just thought I would mention that. So that was the one thing. And then the other thing is this is a question, the money for the parks acquisition. I notice we now have approval for that, and so that the town is fulfilling their promise. So, what is the town's, and I've asked this question before, I'm a little bit still confused. What is the town's responsibility when it comes to debt? Do we share 35% of the debt? If we are 35% of the owners of this market, are we then, if there are problems, are we then responsible for the debt?
The answer is no, we're not. Our 38% is just of the equity. The debt is just with the corporation and the society.
So that, of course, isn't like how normal people would go into business. Like if I were 35% a partner of with someone, then I would have 35% of the debt. It's different.
Yeah, it's just the land that the town is acquiring an interest in, and then there's a long-term lease with the society that they will use to raise funds, perhaps through debt by mortgaging the lease, I suspect, at some point to do the construction, or at least part of the construction would be my guess. But that'll be their obligation, not the town's.
So the money that we're giving, the town is giving, the taxpayers are giving, is towards the building, is towards the land.
Yeah, to acquire.
And so that is on title.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, suffice to say, I'd have to think about this more, but, just off the top of my head, it sounds like we're 35% owner of the property.
We're 38% owner of the equity at the moment, the equity in the property, not of the property, but the equity.
Okay, I get that. Right.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Bell. You want to say that? Okay. Corporate officer will respond to your first query.
Thank you, Mayor Rowe. Just Mrs. Bunkoff, I did want to let you know that we are aware of the account. I did see it on GABC. A copy of it. That being said, what I can say about the account is that it is erroneous in a number of areas. It takes fairly straightforward information that was mailed to the writer, leaves out key facts, and presents the balance in a very convoluted way. Personally, I'm very satisfied with how that process. I don't think that you'll see that in the not what council is looking.
Credit to, and thought that there were some points that were worth taking into consideration.
Absolutely, and we always welcome you to come in if you want some clarification on any of that. Feel free to come into town hall. The writers were provided the clarification and chose not to put it in the story, but I could certainly provide that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Councillor White?
My report mainly connects to some key SCRD reports. I previously reported on regional economic development. Letters and their CVs to the
Okay, thank you. Yeah, and I think it's important to highlight the report that you brought from the regional district. It's the beginning of the impact of the closure costs on pulp and paper. That report indicates that basically there's about $200,000 of lost tax revenue as a result of that closure, which about 25,000 is going to directly impact the town, which is looking at about a 1.3% increase in the town's regional district contribution before we even sort of get started into cost of living indexes and other things that have to be done. So that's certainly one of the beginnings of the impact of that closure. Councillor Lumley, anything on that?
Just following up on Councillor White's report, I was intrigued by the hot tub, but I just wanted to report that the 43 people are each getting the benefit of a $5,800 hot tub completed. And I would have liked to see more work done on that, but I guess it is what it is. I don't talk to Councillor White about it later. I'd also like to report that I like the people in the crowd tonight, and those are good questions by Ms. Baumkoff, and I appreciate your interest. And I would endeavor to, with council, I think this year we're taking an approach that, with the information, hopefully you won't have like questions. We'll put out more information, a little bit easier detail for you. As far as like, for me, I don't know, maybe because I'm an accountant, but pretty straightforward for me for the park acquisition fund, but we could probably give people a little bit more, detailed, but not too much detail, but simplify it so that you go, oh, okay, I get it. That's where these funds are going, and this is what now they present for the town. I think that's a good idea. So.
Councillor Laria? Nothing. Okay, Councillor Sanjanko? Okay. Just going back to the market, I would just also point out that TELUS is opening their reception headquarters to the market in February 9th, I think it is, February 4th. And they're inviting a number of their corporate partners and giving the market an opportunity to pitch their project to the TELUS corporate partners. So I'm looking forward to that. The market has also made some initial contact now with the Squamish Indian band, and they have the Squamish band is indicating an interest in getting actively involved in this project as well. So some very encouraging steps there. So with that, I think just take a motion to adjourn. Councillor Larry, Councillor Sandenko, all in favor? That's carried.